Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final session of Admin Training Week. We've got a really special session today. It's a little bit unique from what we've done throughout the entire week. We're joined by 4 other Google Apps admins who are going to share their unique experiences with Google Apps, and they're from some really great organizations. So I think it'll be a really nice treat for everyone, and we'll get to hear some really interesting thoughts on Google Apps and managing domains and users. So before we go ahead and get started, I'm going to just do a quick introduction like we've been doing. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, you'll just get to see a little bit more about Google Guru and Admin Training Week. And there we go. So, like I said, this is Admin Training Week. This is our very last session of Admin Training Week. My name is Andrew McGonigal. I manage Google Guru. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Guru is a completely free resource for Gmail and Google Apps. So there's more than 300 videos authored on our website by industry experts. Justin Gale has put together some great articles for us, and if you're interested in contributing to the site, you can go to googleguru.com/contribute. And we also have a daily newsletter that we send out with daily tips and tricks and updates about Google Apps, which is great for Google Apps admins as well as end users. So admins, I definitely recommend signing up, and also sending and referring it to your end users. So yeah, so it's a great resource. And a little bit about Admin Training Week. This is our final session, like I mentioned. We've had Google Apps experts from all over who are sharing their best practices and tips and tricks about Google Apps. And we also have some free giveaways that I know everyone is excited about. We have a free t-shirt and ebook along with our Nexus 7 that we are, our final Nexus 7 that we're going to be giving away. So I'd like for everyone to just take a moment to fill out our short form at googleguru.com/roundtable. You can take a moment to just fill that out. This will allow you to claim your free t-shirt, your free admin ebook, and then put you in the running to win the Nexus 7 that we'll be drawing at the end. So if you could just take a moment to go ahead and fill out that form. And after you're done, there's a quick redirect to another form. It's entirely up to you if you want to fill that out, but it's a feedback form about Admin Training Week. So we'd love to get your thoughts on what we did well and what we can improve on. So if you get a chance, fill it out. You know, now or at the end of this session or later on, it would be a lot of help to us. So with that being said, whoops, excuse me, I'd like to come out of the screen share for a second and start introducing our panel for today. Like I said, we're joined by 4 Google Apps admins, and I just want to go ahead and introduce all of them one by one, and then we can do a little bit more of a deeper introduction as we go along. So I'm going to start off, excuse me, as we get all this lined up. So I'm going to make sure that we can see everyone here. All right, so first of all, you guys, I think most of you already know Justin Gale. He did our first session, or he did one of our sessions on the very first day. He's the lead architect of information systems at BRP, so thanks for joining us, Justin. We also have Karen Huffman from National Geographic. Karen's the manager of SaaS, Cloud Apps, and Collaborative Technologies over at National Geographic. So, Karen, thanks for joining us as well. We're also joined by Kevin McGrail of USAID. Kevin is the Google subject matter expert, and really happy to have him on here today. And lastly, we're joined by Jarrell of Virginia Tech, where he is the manager for e-communications services. So thanks a lot for joining us, Ron. Really appreciate having you on here. And with that, I want to go ahead and I just want to let everyone know how we're going to be handling the presentation for today. So I have a couple of just general questions for each of our panelists here today, just to get a general idea of their experiences with Google Apps, and then we're going to start asking a little bit more specific questions to everyone individually, and then we'll just kind of let the conversation go from there. We're going to let everyone chime in and share their thoughts. So I'd like to go ahead and start off with Justin. Like I mentioned, Justin is the lead architect of information systems at BRP. So Justin, I just want to, with our first general questions, the first one is, when and why did BRP originally move to Google Apps?
Great question, Andrew. We actually went looking at Google back in 2010, early 2010. Got inspired. We're down near Motorola. For folks that know them, they're a very large, quiet customer of Google long before the purchase. Got really excited about the technology, the change, going cloud, all the potential possibilities, and the fact that it was, very progressive and evolving. And got a little delayed on our launch due to some other company events. Went live in 2012.
Awesome. So after the migration and being on there for a few years, what Google Apps feature or service has made the biggest impact on your organization, would you say?
Actually, combination Docs. Docs was one of those we really did the soft launch on. Didn't advertise it too much, and it really took off slowly and then just accelerated, just total acceleration. And for about the past year, Hangouts has really been catching on big time. A lot of collaborative meetings, especially similar to this, but multiple people around the country, around the world, using the tools to get things done.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. So next, I want to introduce Karen again. So, like I said, Karen's from the National Geographic. And so, Karen, same question goes to you. When and why did National Geographic choose to? It looks like Karen's got a visit over there. No problem. Yeah. So, Karen, if you're good to go. So, when and why did National Geographic decide to move to Google Apps?
So we piloted Google Apps in 2009, and then we had early adopters fall of 2009, and then we decided to move from our current email system, which was Lotus Notes, over to Google Apps, starting with sort of late fall 2009 and into spring of 2010. I think we were looking for an opportunity to see what was sort of out there, new opportunities for messaging services. It was specifically we wanted to replace our current email system messaging services with something that could move us sort of forward more quickly. And I think we liked Google Apps because it would do the upgrades for us. We didn't have to do this yearly whole big upgrade process and stuff, that it would do incremental every 3 months or so, have new upgrades. And then some of the unexpected applications, like Justin mentioned, Google Drive and Sites. People started adopting those to work collaboratively with their teams and groups across the organization. So those were sort of other wins that we hadn't really, we didn't turn them off, so they were available when we launched Google Apps, but they were nice features that we had in addition to offer to then just a messaging service system.
Great. So yeah, you touched on a couple of the impactful apps and tools available with Google Apps. Would you say there was one specifically that's made the biggest impact on National Geographic thus far?
I think people liked chat actually quite a bit, because you could instantly see who was busy or not busy, and you could kind of start an instant message with them. We didn't really have that function, or didn't enable that function in Lotus Notes. So you got email and you got contacts and you got calendar, sort of the standard messaging, but then you also had the opportunity to use chat for just a quick conversation. And then Google Drive, some people adopted it right away. Other people, it's taken a little bit longer, but I think just the ability to collaborate, internal, external, we have the ability to collaborate with external people as well on Google Drive Docs. So we set that in our admin console. And then just this year, actually just this week, we launched Hangouts. So we're looking forward to seeing kind of what that will bring to our organization as far as collaboration with teams and trying to develop a way to work more seamlessly wherever you are, whether you're on campus or off campus.
Great. Thanks, Karen. All right, so moving right along to Kevin. So Kevin, same question that I posed to everyone else. I know you've worked with several organizations, but with USAID specifically, what's been, when and why did they decide to move to Google Apps?
Well, USAID went over to Google Apps starting in the spring of 2011. We were one of the first U.S. agencies, if not the first, to switch over. And the primary reason is we wanted to, leverage the cloud. There's a specific initiative for cloud first that U.S. agencies have to consider cloud resources, but also than that, the standard things for using the cloud, lower our infrastructure requirements, lower costs, lower internal resource needs. So.
Great. So then, same next question. So what Google Apps feature or services made the biggest impact on USAID thus far?
Well, that's a great question because, in a similar manner to many of the other panelists, we implemented Google Apps almost primarily to get Google Mail. We also, the biggest impact we've had is just the ability to check email from all around the world where, we are in every time zone on the planet, missions all over the place. And before that, largely we had to remote into specific servers and remote technologies to get into our mail. Now we don't have to do that. We can log in from anywhere very quickly, very easily, and get our mail. That has been a huge benefit to us. All the other features of Google Apps really, were rolled out as just hidden bonuses that people had to self-stumble upon. But as others have pointed out, the explosive use of those products has been great. Google Docs, for example, with the collaborative nature, has really changed how a lot of things like meeting agendas or notes for meetings are done, where everybody can keep up on them. So I think that answers the question pretty well.
Great, thanks, Kevin. So we're going to wrap it up for this portion with Ron. So Ron, I'll ask you the same question. So when did Virginia Tech choose, when and why did they choose to go to Google Apps?
Well, about 4 years or so ago, we had a situation where our alumni association wanted email for life forever for free. And our IT organization had a huge mail system at the time. We were handling probably 5 to 6 million messages a day, and expanding it to handle every alumni just wasn't in the cards for free. So I suggested Google Apps because I was a Gmail user, and we ended up getting ourselves Google Apps domain, of which I was the only user for quite some time. We migrated the alumni over to it, and that went pretty successfully, and they got better services, in fact, than our students had, because they had the full collaboration suite. They had Gmail and Docs and Calendar and everything else. So we made a case to the Board of Visitors that said, okay, look, if it's going to cost you X million dollars of money to expand our mail system to give modern services, or we can do it with Google. And they gave us, or actually we said with the cloud, because we couldn't say it with Google. And so we got permission to move forward, and then I spent the next year doing an RFP to allow me to not pay Google anything to do email services. And we moved all the rest of the faculty and staff over a couple of years ago, and things seem to be going great. And we're very happy we no longer have to migrate alumni over to a different system.
Great. So yeah, to follow up with that, since the initial migration of alumni and then having faculty and students on there, what's been, would you say, the most impactful portion of Google Apps that you've seen?
Initially, it was primarily the fact that they had much better email services. They had a lot more quota because Google can afford more disk drives than we can, and got better service off of a wide variety of modern pieces of hardware. It's interesting. It's different between the faculty and staff and the students, because a lot of the students were already using Google for their collaboration. I talked to a lot of student groups and stuff, and they were using docs in classrooms to take notes collaboratively. They were working on projects together. So really, they were already in the ecosystem and just moved over to our Google space and continued doing all their stuff. Whereas the faculty and staff, mainly, it was email, and they've been slowly discovering the other things. Like Google Drive I think is one of the big driver things. Everyone has their own storage space now that they don't have to come to central IT to manage.
Great, thanks a lot, Ron. So now that kind of wraps up just the little intro section that I had planned for everyone. I have a few other direct questions that I've prepared for our panelists, and then like I mentioned to them before, feel free to chime in if you'd like to add on to their thoughts, and we can let the discussion kind of evolve from there. So, so first of all, my first question is for Karen, and so I wanted to ask, since moving over to Google Apps, how have you seen the role or the responsibilities of your IT staff shift since you started adopting, since Google Apps and you started adopting more cloud applications along with Google Apps?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact number of Lotus Notes admins. I would say it was probably in the range of 5 or so people here at National Geographic. We're a staff of about 2,000 staff contractors, about 2,000 employees and contractors. So it was interesting because I kind of fell into the IT field, and about a year before we moved to Google Apps, I had moved to IT because of my social media and cloud collaboration, actually. And then they decided to go Google, so it was like a perfect fit. And over the years, I guess since we've been on Google, our group has vastly decreased in the amount of people who are managing Google. So there's probably 3 people, but not even full time. We have pockets of people essentially. So we give different roles to people to be able to manage different aspects of the Google admin console. So we have a help desk role that we've created. We have an MDM role. We have people who can look at the reports area, and then we have like the super Google Apps admin, like myself and a few colleagues. But it's no longer a full-time job for us. As Andrew mentioned, I am manager of SaaS and cloud apps. So Google is no longer our only cloud app. It was really our first cloud app, our sort of emergence into, how will the organization feel about kind of moving into this area of cloud-hosted solutions. But after that, we launched a single sign-on that is cloud app. We launched another cloud storage service that is cloud. So we manage all cloud apps, and we keep getting sort of more under our umbrella of cloud services, because some of it is, you see sort of common patterns by managing cloud apps, and you also see common ways that maybe you can make them play friendly together. So a lot of the cloud apps offer APIs. So, we've gone on sort of a road to try to automate through the use of APIs, different ways to provision accounts and deprovision accounts. So it's more of becoming sort of a facilitator and a mediator of all the different cloud apps that we manage. And so where it used to be a team dedicated to Lotus Notes and only Lotus Notes, we're really a team spread out across a lot of different cloud apps and seeing where we can see an interplay and an interchange between the different cloud apps. So you might have one source of record, that might be your, like we use PeopleSoft as our source of record in Active Directory, but then you see that those sources of records can feed a lot of these other cloud apps and help to manage, accounts and other, automated processes. So it's really been a kind of interesting journey for us to emerge into this, cloud solution. And, I don't come from a computer science background. I come from behavioral social sciences and management and library sciences and organization of data and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting mix that I ended up in sort of this field that's kind of exciting and emerging for organizations. And communications is actually a very big part of my role as well. You want to communicate and market and facilitate the transition for staff, because change is hard for some people and other people sort of embrace it very quickly. So you have to kind of merge that kind of process as well.
Yeah, and I think the others may want to chime in here. One thing that I've noticed just with talking with everyone is if it seems that the roles of the IT staff has shifted a little bit in terms of, rather than exclusively focusing on fixing problems, educating users, and trying to be preventative and giving them the tools so they're not always reaching out and trying to get help from the IT staff across a number of different cloud applications. So Karen, I don't know if that's if you've seen that in your organization, if anyone else has, but it seems like a common theme. Okay, so the next question that I had was for Ronald. So Ronald, we talked before, and you mentioned a little bit in your introduction. You used the alumni at Virginia Tech as sort of a pilot program when moving to Google Apps. So my question was, how did that decision and that process help when you decided to move everybody, students and faculty, over to Google Apps?
Well, having done it once with the alumni group, it was very similar to move the faculty and staff over. It required somewhat more hand-holding because we don't really actively support the alumni. If they call, we'll try and answer their question, but they're not our core mission anymore. Whereas the faculty and staff, if they can't figure out how to use it, we have to try and teach them. So we had to work on a lot of documentation. Instead of what we used to do where we document everything thoroughly ourselves, we spent a lot of time giving them references to where Google documentation was. And then specifying places where, okay, VT specifically, you want to know this, but to do that, go over here. The actual process of the migration was pretty, having done it with some 20,000 alumni, was actually pretty smooth. We did it. We converted all the accounts pretty much overnight.
Great. I thought that was a very interesting way of handling the process. It gave you a little test period, especially for a group of users that you didn't need to actively support. So and could use that as a learning experience when rolling it out to your more active users. So next, I wanted to send a question over Justin's way. Justin, I know you being in a large enterprise organization, you've been able to hire and add some team members who focus on Google Apps. So my question was for you can maybe offer some recommendations and advice for admins who are kind of in the same position as you, where they've had to train other admins on Google Apps, and some best practices there.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. We were actually in that situation this fall. We brought in 2 new senior longtime Microsoft admins, had to train them on Google. So the topic comes up, well, how do you train somebody to be a Google admin? And fortunately for us at the time, Google's now introduced the admin roles. And also I worked with Gary from Google on the admin certification training. So that draft document you see out there, the little guide on how to prepare for the exam, was an absolute great study guide for our team. We'd spend an afternoon and we'd just walk through 1 or 2 little sections over and over again. Ironically, brought in some cool new technology to do it. Used big screen TVs, Chromecast, and Chromebooks to do the training of the admins. And we just walk through and ask questions. Anytime something would come up, we'd kind of have a little powwow. Okay, how would you do this? And we went through this, for probably 2 good weeks of just over and over again, an hour and a half every other day. And after a couple of weeks, the guys felt good enough, comfortable enough, took the admin certification exam and even passed it. Extremely proud of our guys bringing them up like that, transitioning from Microsoft to Google and learning enough to be able to pass a good interactive, you got to know your stuff exam.
Yeah, if I can jump in on that real quick, one of the ways that we've trained our staff very nicely is that we give every one of our staff members their own sandbox and pay for it. So they have their own personal Google Apps domain and personal domain to do whatever they want with, and they can learn it, they can use it for their own purposes, and it gives them a mission that they want to go learn. And as Justin said, the Google Apps Certified Administration is an excellent test. I'm not one who really actually puts a lot of faith in a lot of certifications, but I was truly impressed in how it came out. It was a very good real-world test, and if you can pass that, you should be a really good administrator at a lot of organizations.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday in our first session when Gary joined us from Google. But just the process of studying for the exam and taking the exam itself is, from what I've seen, has been a huge help for people who are new to Google Apps and learning want to learn more about becoming a Google Apps admin. That the whole process of studying and uncovering new features is great for lots of people.
And that was a lot of fun to work with the team at Google on that. We really wanted to deliver something to the community that wasn't just this rote memorization. You could memorize facts and figures. It was, you had to know it, you had to live it, you had to think about it. We worked a lot of ideas on practical examples of what happens on a day-to-day or weekly basis. Somebody comes into your company, somebody leaves your company, somebody gets, promoted, and just the real life, what do you really have to do to use Google Apps and to live and breathe it? And really happy the way it turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great exam, really interactive, and people, I think, can learn a lot as well as testing some knowledge there. So my next direct question was for Kevin. So we had talked before the presentation. He had some really interesting thoughts on end user security. So we've talked a lot this week about things that an admin can do in the admin console, to secure their domain, but there's some concerns there for end users. So Kevin, my question for you was, what are your best practices that an admin can communicate to their users for securing their own data?
Oh, yeah, thanks. So, we talked a little bit about this, and I can give hours and hours of rambling about best practices and things that are good, but really boiling it down for administrators, right now, it's hard not to become a jaded administrator sometimes when you rant and you rant and you rant. You tell people to implement antivirus, or you tell them to implement backups, and invariably they come back to you with a virus where, oh, my machine was slow, so I disabled the antivirus, or no, I didn't set up the backups, or I ran them a month ago, and they almost get mad at you for not doing the stuff. One of the similar situations that's now growing in that same type of genre is, multi-factor authentication. People, as account they get hacked, they use simple passwords, they use them on other places. Their account gets compromised. Spammers are constantly trying to get access to these accounts, and people are crying when they get hacked. And to me, that part of the jaded administrator comes from the fact that Google gives not a perfect, but a really, really good multi-factor authentication tool with the two-step verification, also known as 2SV. 2SV has its small problems. I can talk about that a little bit. How hard it is to enroll and make sure they're enrolled before you enforce it on the users. But use that tool, get it enforced. You will feel so much better when you lose a cell phone or lose a laptop or something like that, knowing that these people aren't just going to fire it up and get into your account or get in as a super admin and do something nefarious. And having worked at numerous companies where we pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars per user per year for RSA tokens and things like that, the fact that Google gives it free should be a really big impetus for companies to take seriously rolling out 2SV. And on that, I've recommended, I think I'll be doing a presentation on how to use Google's 2SV to secure other websites, so PHP websites or Drupal websites, those type of resources, using the same free multi-factor authentication 2SV from Google, probably at the next Google meetup in DC in September, but I can't give more details about that yet. The second thing that I would say, and this is probably the old person in me, kids today do not value their privacy. And it oftentimes comes back to bite them. So the tenet that I tell people is never to write anything on the internet that you don't expect to be public. So even if you're saying it in some situation where you think it's private, pretend it's public and that you don't want that information compromised. And towards that end, one of the biggest security features that I tell users for protecting their data is, it's a fairly simple one, but I come across it almost on a weekly basis, where people have put too much information in an out-of-office message. And my joke is that you read the messages like a bad actor, or is what they call it, or a person who's interested in doing something bad with that information, and it reads like, "Hi, I'm not at my house for the next 3 weeks. Please come rob me," because they put so much detail into their vacation message about where they'll be and that they're not going to be able to get a hold of them, and it's just a big mistake. So implement 2SV. Be careful on what you put on vacation messages, and just don't write anything online that you don't want to be public. Is probably my 3 big core tenets for admins to beat into their users.
Jumping on to Kevin there, we have one of our biggest issues has been dealing with people who have answered phishes and had their accounts compromised, at which point the spammer jumps on and starts pumping email through our servers or Google servers, and tars our reputation, gets us blacklisted, and we have to go around doing the cleanup of shutting them down, hunting them down, smacking them upside the head, sometimes smacking them upside the head again for doing it again. But it's two-factor is something that we strongly recommend for anyone who's certainly an admin, and actually require for anyone who's an admin, and have recommended to anyone who's out there. Although we have had, when we first moved to Google, we did have a rash of people who somehow managed to accidentally turn on two-factor and had no idea they had done it, and one of them had managed to turn it on a cell phone they didn't even own. So we thank goodness that Google allows you to turn it off for someone.
Yeah, and actually going along that tenet, one of the things that I forgot about, we've actually made turning on multi-factor authentication, not at the agency because we don't really have the issue, it's enforced one way or the other, but at other places we've made a requirement that users that respond to phishes or do something where they've essentially proven that they need the extra layer of protection, we'll enforce that before we turn the account back on that they have to have 2SD enrollment done.
Yeah, and I just want to echo all of our admins in Google Apps. We do also enforce two-factor authentication. We are in a single sign-on environment, but we wanted the extra security for admin accounts to require. There is a nice report feature in Google Apps Admin Console, so you can ensure that anyone who is an admin, or you can kind of check to see who has enabled two-factor. So if you ever run into a snag and it's affecting maybe something else that is installed or on someone's computer, you can always check quickly if they have two-factor authentication. I also noticed that there's a question because we transitioned from Lotus Notes. So is it okay to just sort of jump in and kind of answer that while we're on this?
Yeah.
Okay, while I'm
right
sort of
ahead,
talking.
Karen.
Okay, so with Lotus Notes, we did sort of a phased approach with Lotus Notes. So again, I mentioned we started our transition in 2009. We didn't actually shut down our final Lotus Notes server until probably about a year ago, I want to say, a year and a half ago. So, we got all the accounts moved over, all the messaging services moved over, but we did still have some workflows and other things. We had to figure out what we wanted to do with the other services like Lotus Notes was handling. We also had, a BlackBerry server and all that. So, it was a definitely phased approach, and I think it was about a year ago we finally turned off the last Lotus Notes server. It was kind of a sad day because we had Lotus Notes for so long, but we had to figure out what we had at the organization and then what we had experienced or what experience we needed to gain in order to transition other services that Lotus was doing for us, the Domino server was doing for us, so that included our intranet had to be moved over, our SMTP server. We pretty much moved off BlackBerry and went over to iOS devices and Android devices. All the groups we had in Lotus Notes, we transitioned to Google Groups. So it was a big process, but that's partly why we had a large team originally. But once we sort of got past that all the transition, everything was sort of, transitioned to other databases or other services. Eventually, we could get down to sort of a leaner team where we can manage multiple cloud services, not just Google we're managing, but other services. So.
Yeah, so I think Karen is a good example, and maybe a good person to frame this next kind of discussion point on. So I was curious. I know as admins, a lot of, especially dealing with big changes like moving to cloud applications and SaaS applications, there's common and consistent pushbacks that people hear regardless of the organization. People are concerned with security and things like that. So this is just kind of a general point. If anybody wants to jump in here, so what are some common pushbacks and objections that you hear about cloud applications and also Google Apps, and what have you done to address those concerns? So
what if the cloud goes down?
I think some of it, so what was interesting is part of the reason we moved to Google and even other cloud apps is they handle the upgrade process, but the schedule is fairly quick. 3 months to do different upgrades, new releases coming out the gazoo of different products. It's like you gotta kind of figure out what is really important to the people you're working with that they need to know. Do they need to know every new update that's coming through? I think you gotta kind of weigh what is going to be the most impact, and those are the types of things you need to sort of communicate. But there's also, here's kind of a cool what's new thing you might want to communicate. But the funny thing is it's almost like the rate of change is just like, it's just rolling now, because with Google you got different core services, so it's not just mail upgrading. It could be mail upgrading week 1, contacts upgrading to week 2, calendar upgrading week 3, docs upgrading week, so it's like this constant. And then now we're adding, we've added Okta or for single sign-on, we've added Dropbox for cloud storage, and they have upgrade cycles too. So that's part of the process, I think, of a cloud admin now. A SaaS admin is pulling the nuggets of things that are worth telling your staff, but don't overwhelm them, because I think that we're sort of the filters. So you could, our staff can subscribe to all these blogs and RSS feeds and stuff, but if you want to just send, sort of a consistent message, because we're still in IT, security is important. You might want to do a post, like our help desk. One of our help desk staff just did a post on security is important. So she kind of tied a lot of our services together into one sort of security, how to find your phone, how to, set up two-step authentication, how to set up multi-factor authentication in our single sign-on. They're just different pieces that you can tie it all together, so it's more of a complete picture for people and not these disparate services all over the board, because that's going to overwhelm them. So you become sort of a communication manager in a way with all these services and all the changes that kind of go on.
Awesome. So I had another discussion point, and it looks like it was one of the top questions that we have here, dealing with Microsoft and Microsoft Office. So the question that we have is, do you find that organizations who have deployed Google Apps still use Microsoft Office products in conjunction with Google Apps?
You are never going to get rid of Microsoft Office. Just give it up now. Unless you have the authority in your company to ban it from the building and threaten to fire anyone who uses it, you will have Microsoft Office products and people who keep whining about the fact that they can't read their email with Outlook right.
Well, and we're also, we're a media company. So, yeah, we have a lot of people using Office products, but we have a lot of people using Adobe products and other video editing tools. And, Google Drive is not going to be that storage for us. When you can have, unless they give us unlimited storage, so our users were going to other, right. But, so a lot of people want to use their desktop apps, and yeah, you could use Drive with that. Some of the other cloud services have a little more seamless, easier, sort of dumbed down versions of, it's just a cloud storage. Google's trying to be many things, and they're doing it very well in a lot of ways. But sometimes when your focus for a company is just on storage, they might do it better. But Google will probably get there. I have faith. I've seen how they work.
The weakness is the interface between the cloud and the desktop. The Drive Sync app is not the world's greatest tool that's ever been written.
Look at Sheets, though, right? New Sheets, they finally made it big enough that most of us can use it a little more often than having to go to Excel for large data manipulation. For us, at least, we have some just amazingly huge and complex spreadsheets in Excel with macros, that would make some hardcore programmers cringe because they have so much in them. I don't know that that'll ever go to Google, but for me personally, my use of Excel has dropped almost nothing with new sheets and the larger number of cells available to me and everything else in it.
Yeah, I think to continue that, the statement I make is, I don't drink the Google Kool-Aid. I use the right tool for the right job. I pride myself on being using every environment out there, from Linux to Mac to PC to Android to iOS, and I enjoy all of them and I play with them. So use the right tool for the job at the time, and The way I handle it is that oftentimes I show people some of the tools that are available with Google that aren't available with Microsoft tools. For example, Google Docs. Google Docs very simplified. I call it WordPad compared to Microsoft Word. And I've done book publishing in Microsoft Word, so I know its power. I know what you can do with it, and you're not going to match that in Google Docs, at least right now. But
I had a Google product manager tell me that their goal with Docs was to allow 90% of the people to do 90% of their tasks, as opposed to trying to duplicate everything Word can do.
I think that's a very accurate standpoint, and I think on top of that, the collaboration features. Karen, for example, I know does this all the time when we're at conferences and stuff like that. Several people fire up a document, and everybody takes notes on the conference. So we have a collaborative note-taking session, all via Docs. It's a great way to get work done. You show people things like that, or how to write an agenda on a meeting where everybody looks at it. You can get a lot of work done collaboratively in Google Docs. Cut and paste it into Word, whatever you need to do then to get a final polished product, but use the right tool for the job. And the other thing I do is I show people the Quick Office beta on the Chromebook, because you can see what's coming with Quick Office from Google. I think that's going to put a lot more nails in the coffin and raise that 90% for 90 people to maybe 98 for 98%.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. You touched on there at the end, Kevin. Even if if the concern here with the person that was asking the question is getting people to stop using Microsoft Office or Word and stuff like that, there are tools that Google is offering, like Quick Office, that are encouraging people to use Google Drive more often and making that transition a little bit easier. And tools like Quick Office make a really good starting point when you can see how easily those work with editing Word files. So I think I'm going to start moving through some of these questions. It looks like we have some good ones here. And guys, if you want to bring one up, feel free to shout it out. The one that I noticed here is I know shared contacts across a company is a big issue with Google and Google Contacts. So I just wanted to ask that to the group. Some good solutions for using shared contacts.
Yeah, so I can talk to that one. I didn't realize that was as big a pain point as it seems to be from the amount of +1s there. So Carl, thank you for the question. At USAID, we have the exact same issue. Google limits to, I think, 50,000 for the contact sharing, and I've asked a number of times, and I know as of just a few months ago, there's nothing on the roadmap for Google to increase that, and we need closer to about 200,000 shared contacts. We ended up writing a Google Contact gadget that we deploy with Marketplace that essentially uses secure data connector back to our LDAP server where we cache the answer actually. But we're re-engineering that now to take SDC out of the mix. But maybe if it's that big a deal, we need to open source it and get some other people to take it and extend that. I'll make a note about that. But we unfortunately, the answer we had to do is we had to roll out our own contact sharing. There are several tools out there to also do it, but ours had to be more secure than what a lot of the Marketplace offerings were.
We actually found that we couldn't use the contact sharing because we had the FERPA issues of student privacy and employee privacy for that matter, and we couldn't map our directory, our internal directories privacy settings to Google's properly, and that's going to be like a whole separate project.
We're using a Marketplace app now called Smart Contacts, so it's working pretty well for us. It's within the web environment. We originally started using a Python script that somebody wrote, but then APIs change and the Python script had to be edited and rewritten and stuff, and then we found Smart Contacts. I think it's only like $20 a year, and you can add contacts that aren't licensed Google app users in your domain that you still need people to access, and it's a pretty good app.
Great, thanks guys. So another question that we have here that we touched on a little bit in an earlier session, but organizing a Google Drive folder structure with with content available for everyone versus content for a department only. So if any of you would like to chime in on that, I'm not sure if any of you have set up a drive with that structure or not. If not, and you're still interested, I think Trevor, we talked about this a little bit in our Google Drive, the encouraging collaboration in Google Drive session. That was yesterday, so I think you might answer some of your questions there.
Yeah, I would say the answer to some extent is it's unfortunately kind of a mess right now. We end up using Google Sites a lot when we really need to do it. It's a better way to control the structure, but stay tuned. I know Google's got some really big changes in the works for how that works.
Yeah, right now the big problem is the fact that it's far too easy for someone who's supposed to have access to the drive and collaborate with it to accidentally drag the entire drive off of the group share and mess up the entire structure unless they know that they have to shift click instead of just click.
I was waiting for Karen to speak up and plug the demo that she's given to a bunch of us before.
What was my demo? I'm on a brain freeze here.
That company in Europe with all the check-in, check-out stuff.
Oh yeah, I forget who it was. Yeah, there was a company that was able to actually do check-in, check-out.
It's a great product. I've seen lots of folks use it.
We're not using it, but it is a nice. It'll come to me. Let me Google it. I'll be right back.
Well, while Karen's Googling that, let's try and move through a few more of these questions here. It looks like we're running out of time. One question in this, I mean, we could talk about this all, for a whole another hour, but Andy was asking about a collection or recommended apps or extensions that you push out to your users. I know David Hoff talked about this in his session about Chromebook management and how you can push out apps and extensions in the Chrome browser and Chrome OS. So if there's maybe in your specific cases, we have nonprofits and EDUs and business organizations here. If there's specific applications that you guys have pushed out, if you're into the Chrome browser, feel free to mention those.
Oh yeah, so we've been playing around with the Chrome books, Chrome boxes, and then signing into Chrome. So in Google Admin Console, you can actually push applications out to people who sign into Chrome or who are using a Chrome book, Chrome box. So some of the apps we're pushing out, since we just launched Hangouts, we releasing the extension for the Hangout through the Chrome OS, and we actually had the Citrix receiver. So for people who need to get to applications on our internal server, we were pushing out and pinning. Actually, the Chrome console in Google Apps allows you to pin things unique to your organization. So we've pinned like the Citrix receiver so you can get into like the Active Directory database. We've pinned Mail, we've pinned Okta or single sign-on, and we've actually created our own app so that we have instructions like getting started on Chromebooks, and it's a Google Drive doc, and we've made a little icon and stuff. So it has some nice flexibility of you can pick things from the web store or web extension, and then you can make your own apps. And what I found was it doesn't only work on the Chrome devices, it works on anyone signing into Chrome. So if your organization is trying to promote signing into Chrome and some of the things you can kind of push out, the Admin Console Chrome settings actually apply to the any devices that people sign into. So it's a really nice feature.
One of the extensions that I really enjoy pushing, that I think a lot of people should look at large organizations especially, is the Legacy Browser Support, or LBS. really great for users. So when we have specific technologies that can only work in IE, we can bounce them automatically from Chrome to IE. Great extension, really cuts down on a lot of tickets and helps productivity, especially because for those who've gone Google and understand it, you can end up in a lot of situations where you're on a website, you click a link, and whether or not they have a mail to handler or whatnot, what it's going to launch for that specific link can be quite frustrating to some users. So.
It can be quite frustrating for some admins.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we are just about, excuse me, we are just about out of time for this session. So unless any of you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to offer, I'm going to go ahead and thank everyone and allow you guys to say bye for now, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this up throughout the presentation. So I just want to say, thank you to all four of you, to Ron and to Kevin and to Karen and to Justin. Thanks a lot for joining us. You were a huge help, and I thought this was a great first roundtable session. Hopefully we can do a lot more things like this in the future. So yeah, thank you all of you.
Thank you all. It was nice being here, and thank you, Andrew, for inviting us, and I hope everybody learned something.
All right, so I'm going to go right back into my presentation for just a second and wrap the rest of this up, so we can give away that last Nexus 7. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to go back into our presentation here, and let's see.
I don't think we're eligible, guys.
All right. Sorry, that took just a little bit too long.
I was hoping that by attending sessions and presenting, you'd get extra entries, but Andrew said no.
We don't want it to come off as that we're bribing you to come on here, Justin. So No,
it's been a lot of fun. Always great group of people all the time. It's just amazing to interact with people like Karen and Ron and Kevin on a regular basis, and other people I see posting questions out there and in the communities. It's just a great ecosystem to be a part of.
All right, so like I mentioned, thank you to all of you for joining us. I also want to thank the rest of our presenters throughout the week. They've done an amazing job. It's been a really great week. I think we learned a lot. Hopefully, all of our attendees learned a lot. And it was a great week. There's a lot of information shared. So thank you to all of you. And just so one last time for this our final form here, you can go to googleguru.com/roundtable and just take a second to fill out the short form, so you can be eligible for your free T-shirt and ebook, as well as this final Nexus 7. So that's googleguru.com/roundtable. And before we announce that, I want to thank our sponsors one last time for being a huge help in promoting Admin Training Week and assisting us along the way. So Uber Conference, Spanning, Insightly, Synergize, Flash Panel, Cloud Sherpas, Backupify, and Virtue. Thank you all very much. And along with the rest of our sponsors, there's a great group here. If you are interested in learning more about them, please go to admintrainingweek.com and check them out. So before we announce the Nexus 7, just a couple more notes. Google I/O is next week, and we have a live blog that we're going to hold on Google Plus on the 25th and 26th. So please go check out that community. It's Google I/O 14 live blog, and join that, and we'll give you all the biggest updates on Google I/O. And then lastly, if you enjoyed this Admin Training Week, please go ahead and go to fill out this form for us. It's at googleguru.com/feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts, good or bad, and what we can do better and what we did well. So you can fill out that form, or you can email me at andrew@guruvideos.com. And so lastly, our final Nexus 7 winner that I'd like to announce is Jack Foreman. So Jack, congratulations. So that was we gave away 9 Nexus 7s Admin Training Week. So want to thank all of you for joining us. It was a great week, and hopefully we can do this again in a few months. I would imagine we definitely will, considering the response that we got. So thanks again for all of you who joined us throughout the week. I think there was at least there was well over 10,000 people who joined us throughout the week. So it was a fantastic week, and thanks again to all of our presenters and all of our sponsors for making it possible. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.